Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Classroom Forum, the hub for your virtual learning. This is Debbie Aspitia. I'm an instructional coach with Wayside Publishing, and I am recording this session. Just so you know, it will be, the link to the recording will be emailed to you after the webinar's finished, but we're also going to post it on our webs page. And the link to that is in your chat window, which I'll talk about in just another minute. But let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I have been a teacher for many years. Mostly a teacher of Spanish, mostly in the state of Maryland. And a couple of years ago, Wayside Publishing contacted me and asked me to be an author on Entre Culturas 3, this new series that they were designing. And I was very excited to do so. And then 3 years ago, I joined Wayside as an instructional coach. And in fact, I was the first instructional coach with the company. And that means that I get to share my passion for these programs with teachers like yourselves. Joining me today, we have Michelle. Oh, there we go. Michelle Ola, who is one of our other instructional coaches here at Wayside, and she is based in Florida. And then Jennifer Cornell, who is the Learning Site product owner, and she is also an author on Entre Culturas 3 and is out of Maryland. They're assisting me today in the background, so if you run into any technical issues or you have questions for us during the webinar, you can notify them via the question pane, which is found on your control panel. We'll be taking questions in the second part of the webinar. Also, check out that chat window for the link that I mentioned earlier to our website with more resources. And we've provided a couple of handouts that you might find useful. We have in there a Learning Site Getting Started guide, which is kind of a step-by-step manual for working through the different features of the Learning Site. And then we have uploaded a sample lesson plan for Entre Culturas 3 that I'll be talking about a little bit later in the webinar. And we'll have other lesson plans coming along for the other levels of the Entre Culturas series, as well as for the French. And then I'll be sharing with you a choice board example. And so I've loaded that up there as well. And it's in a Word doc form, so you can edit it, change it out, manipulate it any way that works for you if you'd like. So let's get started. Our outcomes for today are three. We're going to be looking first at some key points to keep in mind as you make that shift to a virtual environment. I couldn't get into talking about the classroom forum and teaching remotely without addressing those first and foremost. And then we're going to look at some ways to build community online using the classroom forum. And then we're going to go in, I'll show you some nitty-gritty about how to upload some of the different file formats on the forum itself. And so remember, our focus today is that classroom forum, which is a great communication tool. And so before we get started, I'd like to learn a little bit more about each of you. So I have a couple of questions for you. So Michelle, would you launch the first poll question for us? So first, what's your comfort level with using the classroom forum with students? And so pick one of the following choices. And, if you've been using Entre Culturas or Entre Culture at all, you know that these are our self-assessment indicators for students in terms of their can-do statements. So is using the form with your students still a goal? Can you do it, but you still need some help with navigating it or the logistics? Or you've been using it and you can do this independently. Okay, so pick one. Okay, Michelle, let's stop the poll and can you share the results with us? Ooh, I'm so excited. That means that I have something to share with you then. Because for the majority of you, this is still a goal. And some of you have tiptoed into it and probably want some more ideas. So let's look at our second question. And this is to give me an idea of what your remote situation is, your virtual classroom situation. So, because of probably inequities in terms of access to technology, your district hasn't provided any kinds of expectations for you to interact virtually, or it's pretty low key. You're being asked to provide some, resources, activities, um, um, you know, music, games, websites that students might uh, interact with if they want to in order to keep practicing their language. Or you're being asked to continue instruction, but in an asynchronous fashion. So you're not being asked to conduct any face-to-face sessions. And then that fourth choice is, daily synchronous instruction. You are using some sort of face-to-face software such as Zoom, Google Meets, one of those kinds of platforms in order to interact face-to-face with your kids. So pick one and let's stop the poll and look at the results. So everyone has some sort of expectation. And again, whether it's just providing ideas and some resources for kids because their access might be spotty, or for all the myriad of other reasons why we know it may be difficult for kids to get online, to those of you who are providing daily assignments perhaps. And so I'm hoping everything that I share with you today, then you can walk away with and actually put into use, which makes me very excited. So this is our agenda. Stop and breathe, making connections from less to more, hands-on. And then the second part of our session, we'll open it up to those questions and provide answers for you. So don't forget to ask questions in that in the question pane on your panel there for GoToWebinar. Okay, so let's get started then. And actually stop, take a deep breath, let the breath out, concentrate on that breath. Let your shoulders relax. You've got this. Like many of my colleagues, I have also had to remind myself to stop and breathe. I didn't think that since I'm not currently in the classroom that I would be affected by this. But because I'm worried about all of you who are using our resources and who are teaching, and I still have so many friends in the classroom, I find that I am worrying as well. And I'm thinking about what can I do to help? I'm waking up in the middle of the night, like so many of you. This is a whirlwind of a change. You're being asked to teach virtually with virtually no training or very little training. We're all at different places in terms of our comfort with technology and our access and trying to figure out how do I do this in an online environment. So stop, breathe, take care of yourself so that you can be there for your students and also then for your family. And then this goes into our second tip, which is to be patient and kind. It almost goes without saying that we're teachers. We are patient and kind with our students, and even with our own children, our family members. Very often, though, we're not patient and kind with ourselves. And we need to be. We always have very high expectations for ourselves, and we have to let those go. This is not going to be perfect. And anything that we do is going to be good, and it's going to be good enough. Now, there's an expression. This is the pot calling the kettle black. I am the worst at this, believe me. So it's a really good reminder for me as well to not be so harsh on myself either. Just like I have so many things happening in my own environment, and you do too. As a teacher, you may have children home with you that you're overseeing and monitoring their schoolwork. You may have, family members that you're concerned about, worried about, who live in other parts of the United States. Um, so you have a lot on your plate, and so do our students and their parents. And so keeping all of that in mind is going to help this process move forward, I think, a little bit easier. These tips are ones that Michelle Ola has shared with us in a blog post she wrote. And I encourage you to check out her post. She has a lot of experience with teaching virtually and also being the mom of a son who's in virtual school. So she knows it from the teacher side as well as from the parent side. And her blog post really gives a lot of great content on that. And I'll be talking about that a little bit more too. This is another one of those lessons that I have to learn. Less is more. Um, for example, in the amount of content that you're sharing with your students, forget about your pacing guide. I love when Michelle tells us that that's over and done. It's time to move on. That in these next couple of weeks or months, perhaps, we really have to focus our attention on, what are those essential concepts that we feel that students really need. And it might be more of a review than it is of accessing new material. Um, I know for myself, I read um, from someone on Twitter, they said, take your regular lesson and cut it in half for this virtual environment. And then look at that and cut it in half again. And then look one more time and cut that in half. And that's probably more than enough. And that was an eye opener. You'll see on the sample lesson, I started out with 4 days and then I thought, well, maybe it should be 5. And by the time I finished, it's 9 days long. And it could even be longer depending on your situation and what's right for you and your students. So keep that in mind. Less is more. It's also true in terms of all of the resources that we share. Our colleagues, I think world language teachers have to be the most generous of any in the teaching profession. And that's probably not true. Probably all teachers are generous. But everyone's sharing so many resources, activities, readings, um, websites, apps, different platforms to use. We're on overload, and this is not the time to introduce new technology into your life or the life of your students, unless, of course, it's the classroom forum on our learning site. Um, and that's why you're here with us today. You may not be using the perfect resource or the perfect app or that perfect website, but at this point, perfect is the enemy of good. And as Michelle says, right now, good is good enough. Um, and then the next piece with that is to think in terms of smaller chunks so that the material, the resources, the activities that you do share are a series of little mini lessons. And these mini lessons might connect and develop the same topic or theme or content, but you've broken them down into these smaller opportunities for students to use their language. Okay, so less is more. Unless, of course, it's not. There's some things you want to do more of, and one of these is communicate. Connect with your students often and in a variety of ways. You can make individual phone calls, you can send emails, but you can use the classroom forum for both text and video chatting, and do that on a daily basis if you like, and multiple times a day if you're really ambitious. It provides a great venue for you to communicate with your students and to let them know that you're there for them. It's also a great way to get to know them better and for them to get to know a little bit more about you than they already probably do. And then intersperse humor and encouragement wherever you can. You know, break out the GIFs and the memes and the silly photos. Recognize student achievements and provide encouragement. If you're brave, which I'm not, try making a TikTok video. Your students will love the opportunity to see and hear from you, and really appreciate the humor at this point and in these situations where we're staying at home. Pinterest can be your best friend for finding all of these kinds of resources and give you lots of opportunities to make your students smile or even laugh out loud. So as I mentioned, check out Michelle's blog post. We'll have it posted. And then another post that you might want to check out is Diego Ojeda's post on our site where he talks about online learning, the new normal. And then I have a post that's up there from Debbie Espitia on using the classroom forum to build community. So all of these will help you stop and breathe. And so as we move closer to this new normal of a virtual learning environment, the Classroom Forum is really the perfect platform for us to build community through that communication with our students and bring in humor, encouragement, as well as teaching and learning. So let me share with you some ideas and strategies that I like to use. I have been using online platforms like the Classroom Forum for, oh my gosh, like over 20 years probably, and have always found it a great way to share all the things that I love about the language, but also to applaud my students and to get to know them better. So a little bit later in the webinar, we'll take that closer look at how to do these posts. But first, let's look at the kinds of things that you might upload and share. So first, highlight celebrations and achievements. You know, even though we're not currently in school, if you've been celebrating birthdays, keep doing it online on the Classroom Forum. You might also celebrate any achievements that you hear, through Twitter or Facebook or the grapevine, that your students have achieved either before we start staying at home or while we've been staying at home. They aren't necessarily putting on their plays and giving their choral and band concerts, but some of them, some of the groups are doing that kind of thing virtually, or in conjunction with nursing homes through a virtual platform. And when you find out about those things, share them on your Classroom Forum as well and applaud them in the target language. And I think it goes without saying, I may be showing you some ideas and all where we see the text in English, but it's understood that this is the opportunity that you get to use the target language with your students. So as much as possible, keep everything in that target language. Oh, and if you add text to photos, make sure you're not putting it over the faces of any of the students who are in your classes. Okay. Another thing to share is student work. You may be having students do some projects, creating videos, designing things, and sharing them and posting them to you. Share those with the rest of the class and, applaud them, give them praise. Or bring back things, like, remember when we had this contest for the best ofrenda and Cesar, Elena, Pedro, and Violeta won? Kudos to you. Another activity to to post are challenges for your students. Here's one that I've posted about my favorite things. You can find spinners online, and so the students will click on the online wheel link and spin the wheel, and according to the number they get, they have to do one of these 5 tasks and reply to this post and do that particular challenge. So for example, if they get a 1, they have to write a note of appreciation to one of their teachers. And if they get a 2, they have to record themselves, because on the classroom forum, they can create audio or video recordings. And so for number 2, they do that and they talk about what they like to do in their free time. Now, you can tell this is for a level 1 class, my novice learners. So it's going to be very basic Spanish, but it is, these are things they can do in the target language. Number 3, they're going to draft a list of 5 things they miss about school. I might have been ambitious with that. They might not be able to think of 5. Maybe I should have made it 3. And then number 4, tell us 3 things you'd like to do if given a free choice activity for language class. My students were always asking for those kinds of things, and we would create a list of what would be our free choice activity as a prize for having done, something like everyone did their homework. And then number 5, record yourself, audio or video, and listing adjectives that describe the best qualities of your friends. Okay? So lots of fun, a challenge, and I'm not really worried that they may spin a 1 and instead do task 4. It's okay. Another thing that kind of goes along with highlighting student work or student accomplishments are memories. Again, if you are like me and you take pictures of things that happen in your class, this is a fun time to post those and say, remember when such and such. Include with it sentence starters or questions so that students have to write a caption for the image. I was teaching middle school before I left the classroom to work with Wayside, and our mascot was Squishy from Monsters, Inc. I don't know if any of you know Squishy, but he is the monster who is the cheerleader and the encourager. And that's what all of us need to be for each other in Spanish 1 class. And I show them a video of Squishy encouraging the big blue monster to get out on the dance floor and dance. And that's what they need to do, is encourage each other to use the language. So what does Squishy say? What would he say in this situation? And then another thing that I try not to take photos of my students' faces so that I can share pictures, but then it's always a fun game to try and figure out who's who from the pictures that are posted. Here was our kind of fashion show for a purpose activity. And I can have my students describe the outfits and try to guess who's who in this particular post. Another strategy is to do a 3-2-1 reflection with students. This is a great one, this particular one for, like, say, a Friday. So the students will write, for example, 3 words that describe their week, 2 things that made them smile this week, and 1 thing they plan to do this weekend, right? Here's another one. So remember, I was a Spanish teacher, and for any of you who know Zachary Jones and his website, he posts a lot of different activities around like Twitter and music, and he has this thing about cats. And the word for Wednesday in Spanish is miércoles. but he has twisted it to Meow Colace. My students loved this. So every Wednesday we had a cat photo and they would have to do something with that. So here are some 3, 2, 1 ideas around Meow Colace that you might do on a Wednesday. So in this case, I told the students to just pick one, not to do all 3. So it could be 3 words that describe cats, 2 things cats do that make me laugh, and then 1 name I would give a cat and why. Okay. I can't not share this particular tip, even though people might question, does that really build community? And I think I'm going to say yes, because I think music is that language that connects us all. And so I love to share music from the target culture that speak Spanish, and music videos. And I don't always use them to learn the song, but to really learn also about the culture and maybe a little bit more about our own culture. And so in this case, this is a great video, great song by Fonseca, but the video is very cool because it opens and you get this aerial view that comes down to these 2 young people of a plaza in a town. And so the students are to describe what do they see in this plaza, which is the center, the heart of most towns in the Spanish-speaking world. And they can then make comparisons of how does that compare with their own town's center. Any of you who are from the South, I used to live in Kentucky. I grew up in Kentucky, and our town was built around a town square. Now, interestingly, the center of town where I taught was really, it was literally the mall. That was our town center. So imagine, the students making those kinds of comparisons. Again, I could center all of my instruction around music and music videos. And this might be just the perfect opportunity for you all to do just that. No? So keep that in mind. Think about that. The other thing that I like to share is information about cultural events. And again, making those connections to celebrations that we have and how we might celebrate a similar type event. In the Spanish culture in Spain, April is the Feria in Sevilla, España. It has been postponed for this year, but this is a great video that I would share for students to take a look at and note, what are the elements of Feria? Why do they celebrate it? What do they do, et cetera, et cetera. And then another one that's coming up even sooner is tomorrow, and I love this for the French, the Poisson d'Avril, which I think is very cute. For anyone who doesn't know, in French-speaking countries, their April Fool's trick is to put a fish on each other's back. I think it's morphed into paper fishes now, but these cartoons kind of show a twist on that concept. And so I can have the students explain what is happening in each of the cartoons. So if you can't see very well, the cow has a fish on his back in the top image, and the fish has a cow on his back. And then in the bottom image, the fish has a little person on his back that has been put on his back. And so what do people here do to celebrate or observe April 1st? And then you can even extend it more globally. What makes you laugh? Okay, so some great guide questions. You could have sentence starters to help the students depending on the proficiency level of the students that you're working with. So remember to bring in those cultural connections and cultural events as well. Okay, so we've talked about just some random types of activities and tasks that you can have your students do that have them continue to practice the language, but in a less structured way. It may stray from your, your pacing guide, and maybe at that, initial levels of, I don't have to follow my exact curriculum, but I need to provide something to help my students continue to practice the language. And those activities, serve that double purpose of also continuing to be connected to your students and them to you as well. So if we think then about that kind of continuum of going from less to more, okay, the next step after that type of situation might be something where you are trying to continue your curriculum, but your students may not be checking in on a daily basis for X amount of time. So I think choice boards are a great answer to that. And in the handouts part of your control panel there, I've included this particular choice board. It's built around the resource that you'll find in Explorer of the videos made by our video bloggers. You know that each unit focuses on a different Spanish-speaking country or French-speaking country, and we feature one or more sometimes young people who from that country who are going to talk about whatever the topic or theme is from their perspective. And they're real people. They aren't actors. They don't have a script. We've given, the authors, we gave them some guide questions or, bullet points to talk about. And then they shared their experiences and what they do. And then based off of that, we created all kinds of activities. So there are activities in the actual text. So you might have students, complete one or more of those activities in the book. And then online in Explorer, in your content folder, in addition to the resources that go with those book activities, you're going to find something we call extensiones in Spanish or activités supplémentaires in the French. And these are additional activities that aren't in the book. So you could also assign those, but you can have students do other kinds of tasks around those videos and the information that they glean from them. So here's a choice board where during the week, again, depending on your situation and the level of contact that your students need to have with the language, you might tell students, you might share a choice board like this and say, pick 3. Complete 3 of these this week. Or if you have to have daily activities, they can complete 5 of the 6 activities and they decide what they do. And every day they post their results of what they've done to you on the classroom forum. This is a great strategy because you're not creating lesson plans every single day, but you're continuing to check in with your students and providing them with feedback on what they've done. Not grading them, but giving them an opportunity to hear from you what they've done well, what they might do to improve their writing or their speaking, and align your comments with the rubrics that really show the expectations for students at particular proficiency levels, across levels 1, 2, 3, 4, AP, etc. So here I put this up there as a Word doc. Manipulate it, play with it, do whatever you would like to do. You might think of creating one for vocabulary review or learning new vocabulary or grammar structures as well. Okay. To the other end of the spectrum, it might be business as usual, and you've been asked to keep up the daily instruction. And the classroom forum can really help you do that. It won't allow you to do synchronous video conferencing with your students, like a Zoom or a Google Meets or FaceTime might do. But you can post messages back and forth, and you can post assignments. So for example, this is the first assignment in that sample lesson plan that I've posted. It's for Entre Culturas 3, Unit 4, which is all about sustainability and protecting our environment. And this is an activity towards the end of the unit, Actividad 12, around urban eco gardens. And the very first activity opens with a message from the teacher. Now, I am not, as I mentioned earlier, a TikToker. I even hate to see myself on video or to hear myself. But I think it's important to have some level of connection. So if you're shy like me, this might be an option. So you see that in addition to the written message, I've also posted a video that I made. So students will click on that video and it pops open and they can play the message.
Hola, mis queridos estudiantes. Hoy vamos a mirar el concepto de ecohuertas y zonas verdes en nuestras casas y comunidades. Las ecohuertas promueven una comunidad sostenible. Pero, ¿cómo? Pues hagan una lista de posibles beneficios de las ecohuertas. Recuerden las 3 R's: reusar, reducir y reciclar. Comparten sus ideas en una respuesta a este mensaje. Y cuando terminen, lean mensaje número 2. Hasta pronto.
Okay, so after students then submit their ideas of what an eco garden might be and what the benefits are, like Cork has done here, you'll have this chain of replies to that message. It's just like, Facebook or any kind of social media. You'll have this thread of responses. Here, Cork says that the eco gardens give fresh food. The plants also give us CO2. Okay. So then my second message for the day is that students are going to be introduced to the new vocabulary that goes with this concept. And you know, if you're looking at the Spanish, we call the vocabulary así se dice. And so this is así se dice 10. In the French, that would be comment dit-on. And in this case, the students are going to create an illustration, a scene with drawings or images, clip art, photographs, whatever that illustrate the vocabulary in question. And it's vocabulary like greenhouse, gardens, fertilizer, irrigation systems, things like that. And their goal is to try to include all of the words in their drawing, but not to write any of the words on the drawing itself. And they need their drawing for the next class. And boom, those are the 2 assignments for the day. Okay. I would recommend, remember, less is more, not having more than 2 posts, like 2 messages, 2 of these mini assignments per day. As we said, students and parents are stressed. There's so many other things happening. It may be a stretch for them to even complete this much, right? So less is more. Just to kind of give you a glimpse, remember there are 9 days. So the next day, students are going to bring in their drawings that they did and take a picture of the drawing and post it to this message. And then they're going to download the picture that appears just below theirs. So if I post my picture, I look at this, who posted after me, I download that person's picture. And then students are going to take that picture and identify all the vocabulary words that they can find that the person included, and then respond to their post by saying how many words they found and actually writing down the words that weren't included in the photo. Okay, so low stress, I hope. And then the second post on that is for students to continue practicing their vocabulary by doing one of the extension activities, the flashcards. So they're going to review the flashcards for the rest of the day or the next 5 minutes at least. And to access that assignment, which can be found online, they are going to go to the assignment tab on the learning site, and they pull up the calendar and then have ready access to all of the assignments over the next 9 days. You can choose to post them all at once or just have assignments appear, each day as they're needed. Okay. And so this is what that first day's post look like for the students. And then their responses will make that a little bit longer as well. So as I said, that sample lesson with some of the very detailed for you for the next, over like a 2-week period, is right there on the control panel in the handouts. Even if you don't teach Spanish 3, go ahead and download it. It may give you ideas for activities you may do for your own classes. Anything you do is going to be a mix of the activities in the textbook, the flex text, because students have access to that online, and then the extension activities that are online, and anything then extra that you bring in. So for example, of course, in this lesson, I have a song that students will learn about the importance of having plants around us and preserving our earth. Okay, So, our last segment before we jump into our questions and some answers to those is going to be some hands-on nitty-gritty of the tricks of creating posts and including files and videos and images, etc. Okay, so to do that, I am going to switch out of here and I'm going to actually go to the learning site and pull up the classroom forum. Okay, good. You should be able to see that. Looks like you can. Good. So whenever you, log into your course, you land on the content page. And if you scroll down just a little bit on the right-hand side at the bottom, you see that classroom forum space. Okay. So when you click in there, and I am in the French one, just to show you, I have an empty space here. This is what it looks like. I can type a post, just like in a word processing program. I can upload files, I can do audio or video recordings as well. So as I said, I can type in this just like I would in any word processor. I can make my text bold, italicized, underlined. I can color it. And I always like to do that if I'm inserting a link, because we've grown to understand that very often that text that's in blue is linked somehow. So I can do that if I'm going to link it. I can color every single word. You know your students are going to want to do this. I can insert links. We see our little link here. And so I can put my website or any website that I'm linking to. I usually like to click for it to open in a new tab so that the students will see it in a new tab and very easily be able to come back to the post. I click OK. And so it inserts that link, and see when I hover over it, I get the little hand so that I can click and go to it. Oh, I haven't posted yet. That's why it's not going. I can also insert images. But this particular button asks that I include the URL of the image and insert it that way. But here's one of our first hacks. There's another way that you can do that. So for example, let me go into the flex text, and let's say we are in Unit 2, and we're looking at some of this new vocabulary, and I'm going to have the students do something here. I have them describe what they see in this backpack. I can right click on that image, and I can do this on any image. I just caution you that you be very careful about copyright, and remember to use images from Creative Commons that are licensed for free use. But you just right click, copy the image. Oh, I hope my post is still there. I bet it is. Oh, it's not. But I can come back then, post my image, and then give my directions, you know. Oh, I'm not even going to try to use my French for this. What do you see in the backpack? Pretend like that was in French, okay? And then I just click post, and the students can see that post, and they can respond to it. They click reply, and they can add their own. Je vois un stylo. Peut-être. Okay. And so there you can have the student responses. So right click, copy image, and paste. Okay. We added a link. We opened a new tab. I recommended that you color code it. Let's add some files to this then. So in this case, I'm going to upload some other kind of file that I want the students to access. So very often, some of you have asked, you know, how do I share some of my own resources with my students? So I've created this activity and Word document, and I want to share it with them. Just click on Add File, and then choose the resource. It adds the resource under the text box, okay? And you might give some direction of what they're going to do with this particular file. This happens to be a JPEG, an image file, and I click post. And so notice then that the file shows up in my post. The students are going to click on that file, and they can then, in this particular case, right click it and save it to their desktop. If it's a Word document, they can download it to their device and type in it. The same with a PDF, they can download it to their device. Let's take a look at another type of file. Let's say a movie file. I think I had something here. Oh, I love this. I don't know if any of you who teach French have seen this series, Je viens de Bagno. It's on YouTube. It is so cool. These people talk about themselves. They're people from the town, and in some cases they're famous. Like this young man is a very famous street skater, or very well known. He's won contests, some kind of competition, something gold, and he talks about himself, and they have to name 3 adjectives that describe who they are. So I open that file. So remember, it's going to show up under the post box. I tell students to do something with this, you know, watch the video and list the adjectives. Okay, boom. I click post. It shows up here. Students are going to click on the video, and it opens up here for them to watch. They can make it full screen by clicking on the little squares, and then reduce it again and watch it in here. Oh, Golden Blocks, it's called. Isn't that cool? You okay? And where do you come from? Okay, so it's a great little activity then for the students to create their own videos. They describe, themselves in 3 words and where they come from and what they do. Very cool little activity and way to show that. I can also, create a link to the file. I happen to have been able to download that, and I shortened it. I think you saw in the file it says trimmed. But I could go to YouTube as well. So let me click over here to YouTube, and I don't know if this is going to show up. Sometimes the pop-up windows don't, but when you go in and you find a YouTube video that you like, you can copy the URL and you click on share. Oh, it shows up, good. And usually you copy that URL, and so then I could post that in the post, and I would have a link, and it would take the kids over here to YouTube, and they would watch it. But look at this, I discovered this hack that I didn't know I could do before, and I love it. Instead of copying the URL for the YouTube, I can click on embed. When I do, up pops the code here for embedding the video. There's a little link at the bottom that says copy, so I click on that. It highlights the code and copies it. So I then click out of the picture, out of the video. I go back to my post on the classroom forum. I go to link. Don't even ask how I figured this out, but I go to link. I paste, Control V. I paste the code in there. I don't want to open in a new tab because I want it to appear right here in my post. I click OK, and voila, I have the video right here. So then I can write, and I can, give my students directions. Watch, you're going to make your own video, and then post. And so then the students actually see the YouTube video in the post. It's not a link, it's not a file that they have to click on and watch elsewhere. They can click on play and watch it right here. They can make the screen bigger, or they can go and watch it in YouTube. By the way, teachers of French, there's a whole series of these videos for different people from the town. It's very cool project that they did. So let me see, I think I've hit everything. We talked about, the only thing I haven't done, which makes sense that I haven't, is because I just so do not enjoy recording myself. But I can also then, instead of typing in my posts, I can create an audio or video recording of that. So again, I just click on add recording. I start recording and I just start talking, and then I click stop when I'm done. And voila, my audio shows up at the end, at the bottom here under the post. I click post, and then it shows up in the post, and the students would then click on it and click play. Start recording, and I just start talking, and then I click stop. Okay, so it makes it so easy. So you can't necessarily be synchronous, but you can come pretty close through those audio and video recording pieces. So let me get back to my PowerPoint, and let's see if we have any questions.
Hi, Debbie, this is Michelle. So we had a couple questions from some people that you can help us with. So one was, Where is the Wayside blog located that to show the posts that you mentioned? Can you show where they can find?
Yes, I can.
We don't see your PowerPoint or anything right now. There we go.
So now, okay, so let me get out of PowerPoint so I can maneuver the website. So we're going to go to waysidepublishing.com. Okay, and the remote learning and teaching site is right here on this banner. This will take you and you'll see a lot of the resources that we're pulling together for your virtual teaching environment. Like the copy of this webinar will show up here. And our blog is called Proficiency Talks. I don't know if you can see that title very clearly, but it's right up here in the corner of this page, and it links then to some of these posts that we have about virtual learning. Michelle's is the Teaching in Extraordinary Times, and I can click on that and it brings me over then to the Proficiency Talks blog, and there you'll find her particular post. You can then click on the header and it will bring up the entire blog with all of the posts. You can do a search, for, oops, let's see, online. I don't know if that will bring some, oh yeah, it did. So, ways to build community, making the most of online learning communities, the online learning, Michelle's art post on the Teaching in Extraordinary Times, etc. Tips and tools for teaching remotely. So there, Proficiency Talks. And we found it here on the remote learning and teaching. There's just a real quick link to get to that. What else?
Awesome. And Teresa just asked, are there going to be sample lessons for Spanish 1?
Yes, there will be. And for Spanish 2 and French 1 and French 2. I'm not sure if we have any yet because it's still in the works, the French 3 or the Spanish 4 yet. Those books aren't quite finished. They're wrapping them up because they'll come out for this fall, for school in the fall. But yes, and I'm sure they will be posted on this page.
Great. And then another question, someone asked, do students see the posts, each other's posts, and is the teacher able to delete posts if necessary?
Yes and yes. So I don't know if you can see very clearly. If you look very closely at your screen, there's a little X beside my posts because I'm the teacher. I can go in and click that and it will delete a post. Students cannot delete their own posts and they can see each other's. So anything that a student posts, the other students are going to see. So it's important to have that conversation with students about, being respectful and, posting only things you would want your grandmother to see, et cetera, et cetera. But if a student inadvertently posts something that's inappropriate, take a screenshot and then delete it and then call them so that you can remove anything that's inappropriate.
Great. Another question was, can students also respond to posts using the audio or video function?
Yes, they can. So encourage that. Mm-hmm.
So you can put a picture, and they could respond orally, not just with.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes.
The last question that I had here, someone said that they are currently reviewing for purchasing in the future, and who could they contact to get options as far as having access for their students or any other account sort of issues?
Mm-hmm. On our website, under Contact Us, when you click on that, it'll give you the information. You can either call, and our phone number is here, or you can send an email at info@waysidepublishing.com. Express your interests, let them know where you're from, and they will forward your information to the appropriate account manager, and or take care of you themselves right then. Like if you're asking for some review materials and that sort of thing, you can review the learning site and sign up for a 30-day free account by clicking at the top of our website where it says Visit Learning Site. And this will, well, it's because I'm already logged in, it took me right here, but it will take you there and tell you how you can sign up for a demo account. But if you're ready to now go to the next level of getting, examination materials or even purchasing, then go through the Contact Us links and get in touch with us.
That's all the questions we had in the chat. Unless someone else has a question, either they want to ask Debbie or put in the chat.
Or in the question pane. Going, gone. We had great wait time there.
Oops, Teresa had her hand up. Teresa has a question.
Oh, good.
Let me unmute your mic, Teresa. Okay, Teresa, go ahead. Maybe not.
I can't hear Teresa.
Let's see. Okay, I guess maybe not. Oh, we've got a thank you in the questions and answers. I think we're probably good. And if you have any other questions, Debbie, do you have your contact information that we can I'll share that, or you can go through.
Go to info@waysidepublishing.com. After today's session, you'll get an email in probably a day, and my email is on there. So if you think of anything else, you'll have my email on that message that you get, and you can, reply back and ask me anything that you need to. Also, we have a survey that we would love for you to fill out and let us know how today went and what else you might want webinars on. We're here to support you, so please don't hesitate to get in touch, and we hope you stay safe and stay well. Have a great afternoon.